Good afternoon, everybody. This is Gabriel Garcia, otherwise known as the Wandering Quill and the Wandering Scribe, and today we are doing another Wandering Quill Book Impressions episode here on the channel. Now, this book comes courtesy of author Tatiana Obey, who I had featured on the channel many months ago. Now, this book is a Champloo novella called Sistah Samurai, and it's inspired by a lot of anime references, and one anime in particular being, of course, Afro Samurai. And if you're a fan of Afro Samurai and anime, you'll absolutely love this. And this book in particular also deals with a lot of mental health issues, some heavy hitters, which include depression, survivor's guilt, and so forth. And Tatiana Obey works it in very beautifully, that it's such a great story. It reads very much like an anime, but it's also a very powerful story, which I greatly enjoy. And throughout the book, there are also commercials, so to speak, that break up the story every now and then, which gives it that unique feel. And there's also a playlist attached to the story. When you buy it, there's a QR code, and that QR code will give you a list of songs that you can listen to while reading Sistah Samurai. So, without further ado, let's begin. To the black women who have raised me, who have carried me, and who have held me, this is my love letter to you. To my fam, welcome home. To anyone else, you're in my house, you're a guest, mind your manners. Chapter 1. Break my soul. I knew this is going to be one of those days when I forgot my glasses. Look, now I don't really need them. I'm not dependent on some newborn on their mom's breast. I'm a grown-ass woman. They're just nice to have around, you know? For just in case purposes, but mostly all I do is run the same errands every day, and I don't need help to see the ground I've walked 1,000 times before. I squinted, careful to align the sharp edges of my wakizashi against my forearm. I trailed along yesterday's barely healed scar, and without fuss, sliced another shallow cut into the skin. I collected the well blood with practiced ease, wiped the sweat gathered beneath my headband, and glared at the sun until my eyes watered. Probably why I needed those damn glasses in the first place. Then I exchanged my blood, sweat, and tears for a single vial of ink. The ink gleamed a mighty shade of incandescent ebony. No speckles or air bubbles from what I could see. Tamashi ink is an extraction of a person's soul, they say. If so, the color of mine, it must be blackety black, black, black. The proud inksmith grouched in my scrutiny, a dance we do every time. The motions rote and predictable like a line dance. He could pretend that offense all he wanted, but I was checking this ink. After all, it was the one time you don't that comes to bite you in the ass. By now, the master inksmith knew that this was something I had to do, just as I knew that his hemming and hawing was something he had to do. So we danced our dance like old begrudging partners. He was a tough old thing, with fingers like gnarled roots and skin like stubborn bark. The only softness he had on him were his eyebrows, which clung to him like white cottonwood seeds. Sometimes I wondered if one good blow could scatter them right off his face, the way kids wished on dandelions. How many wishes do you think he held in them fuzzy brows? Ink bowled in the back of his open-air shop, carrying a perfume of apricot blossom seeping into the earth plaster and woven bamboo walls. Straw-knotted sumi sticks hung from the ceiling to dry. Though sealing Tamashi ink was quite a lucrative business, the inksmith still practiced that old traditional art. Liver-spotted hands kneaded passion and pride into a ball of glue and pine soot. As he worked, his foot twitched, knocking the wooden frames that were scattered along the ground. His knee bounced higher and higher with every second I lingered over the ink. A smirk pulled at my lips. The wizened master golfed. Sometimes the humor of a younger, more mischievous life possessed me, stealing away the years like a gust of wind smelling of my parents' sunflower fields. "Shouldn't you be going, Sistah Samurai? Don't you have some place to be? I certainly didn't need no reminder of how life has become one errand after another. There was never any time for fun anymore, nor time for teasing old inksmiths that grumped too much like my former sensei. He did have a point, though. Even I could recognize when the dance had gone on for too long. No time for encores, no time for freestyling, not even time for a little wiggle. With a sigh, I gave the inksmith master a parting nod. He gave me a respectful one turn. Till next time. I deposited the ink within the stitched pocket of my obi. My ride or dies, my katana wakizashi, rode shotgun in the pink lacquered sheets on my hips. I plucked the sunglasses from my fro, cleaned off the grease with the edge tip of my haori, apologies, and refitted them over my eyes. I see you looking at me. I know what you're thinking. This girl done left her glasses at home. But she sure did remember to grab her shades. Well, yeah, 'cause me look like a bad mother. So mind your business. Chapter 2. Soldier of Love. My steel-plated getas click-clack along the petal-coated cobblestones of Chikakure. This place is one of those boondock villages tucked out of the way of the main roads, or at least it used to be. Now bamboo shacks brawled hinoki construction for space along the crowded thoroughfare. The senile village wasn't ready for the population explosion that bloated its walls, often creaking and straining like an elder complaining too much and that too many grandchildren were in their house. I didn't blame anybody for seeking shelter at one of the last places not yet decimated by demons, but what I didn't get was how folks assumed this village was under the protection of the Sistah Samurai, who often patronaged its businesses. Look, I had a bad hip and my knees hurt more days than not. My time of heroing was long behind me. I finally stopped rolling my eyes at the way people bowed as I walked past. They did so often, but I was no different from any of them. I was out here surviving just like everybody else. They call me Sistah Samurai, but in truth, I'm just a tired woman tired of being tired. Back in the day, a samurai's duty was to serve their retainers and stewards of their daimyo's feudal domain. But that was a way of life that was shredded to pieces when the demons overran the capital, Irolanta. 7 years ago, during the Empress's coronation, with the death of the Empress and the gathered daimyos, the attack had shattered the political system of Hiroshima into lawless territories and upstart warlords. The Sistah Samurai had accompanied their lieges to the capital on that day, and I had lost them all. I should have been there. I should have been there standing pauldron to pauldron by her side, but I was no hero. The clan had acted as a dam against the demon horde, but now the floodgates were burst open. The world changed overnight, and most folks were scrambling to find a life raft still. And Chikakure happened to be that rickety boat in a sea of horrific darkness. The only difference between me and everybody else was that I got a katana to help me row, but most times it didn't keep me moving forward none. I turned back. Though I saw something move in the corner of my eye, I still didn't watch the sun stretch the shadows of old friends playing spades under the awnings. They bowed their heads under my scrutiny, and one of them offered to let me join their game. Another offered up their son instead. I politely declined their offers and continued on my way. Can't trust those shadows anymore. The sun was higher than when I arrived through the village gates and now stupidly blazed heat on my shoulders. The alva provided some measure of shade, though, and the headband kept the sweat from my eyes, but I was still feeling the heat through my layers of clothing. It was warmer down here from where I started up the mountain. Either that, or it was one of those hot flashes my granny used to warn me about. Desperate for relief, I shrugged off my haori, and wrapped the sleeves around my waist. Underneath, I wore a faded and lived-in black kimono, while everyone else in the village had already donned their spring yukatas. The bright floral prints decorated the streets like spring shower rainbows, and I shoved through those rainbows like a thundercloud. For a moment I hovered beneath the cool shade of a sprawling cherry blossom tree, which was always poising like a dancer at the center of a courtyard. I regularly cut through to reach the main row. Thick white rope encircled the sacred tree like a decorative obi, and the wind shook its branches, rustling them like tambourines. I don't remember the last time I paused to appreciate the transient blossoms, probably not since I was a young girl when my sisters and I enjoyed the Hanami festivals after sword practice. All of a sudden, names and faces bombarded my thoughts. A rush of memories hit like a well-deserved blow to the solar plexus. I turned away from the tree, bowed my head, and focused on breathing through the nauseous weight of my stomach. I squeezed my eyes shut to the creeping shadows to find the taste of springtime dangle in my mouth, the smell of takoyaki hush puppies popping and sizzling on the grill, and the sound of girlish giggles bubbling and bursting in my ear. Sometimes in those moments when I waved through the knowledge that I was the only one left, a vague out-of-body experience came over me and I became a ghost haunting the living, anchored only to the present by the past. A gust showered pink petals down on my hair. I charged away from the tree, but those damn petals seemed to trail after me, falling into my kimono collar every time I turned my head. I clutched my hand around the hilt of my katana, over the pink outer wrappings of the ray skin, as if that was going to do anything. Still, I kept the grip on that hilt until my beating heart slowed to a ballad. I hated spring, I hated cherry blossoms, and I hated pink. When I reached the main road, I braced myself for the blast of color. Cherry blossoms lined both sides of the thoroughfare, their branches arching overhead like childhood friends holding hands. I begrudgingly walked beneath the pink floral cloud, wary that any moment it could all topple down and suffocate me. What made it worse were all the children running around, not watching where they were going, and getting underfoot. They were every shade of melon you could imagine, from black pine to white birch, representative of the diaspora who had fled from all over the island to find refuge in this small village. They filled the air with their shrieking as they weaved through the crowds. One hopscotched into my path, a young girl with missing teeth, an ankara-patterned yakuta, and her hair split into two pointy-tailed puffs of colorful butterfly baubles. Her high heels skidded along the paved road and stopped with a jerk. She would have collided with one of my legs if I hadn't taken a step back. The girl looked up with an obvious apology on her lips, but seemed to have gotten distracted. Her mouth dropped open in awe as she stared at me, as if my halo of hair marked me as some sort of goddess worthy of worship. I snorted. Before I could shoo her off, a tap-tap-ta-dum of drums distracted us both. I grabbed the girl by the shoulder and firmly pulled her back with the rest of the crowd as the drums approached. The drummers led a procession of gossiping geishas through the crowd. Their attendants shaded the young women with paper parasols as they walked the streets to enjoy the cherry blossoms. Dramatic and voluptuous yakutas blanketed bodies types of all sizes. They wore their hair fancy-like and elaborate braided updos pinned by delicate kanzashi hairpins. Their faces were painted cobalt black, highlighted further by sparkling gold lipstick and swooning eyeliner. Usually I rolled my eyes at the spectacle, but I knew the peacocking was all part of their hustle. I want to be like you, the little girl whispered, while the crowd admired and gawked over the geishas. No, you don't, I responded almost automatically, and told her this. Become a geisha. There is a respectable practice. You learn to sing, dance, and play various instruments. It's an honest living. I want to become like you, the girl said, even more insistent. My dad was killed by demons. I want to become a samurai so I can protect my family and everyone I loved. For a moment I saw another little girl in her face. A little girl so angry and so vengeful after stumbling upon the corpses of her family in the sunflower fields. She had lost her parents, her grandmother, and her little brother that day. The demons had consumed their souls and left their bodies behind for crows. But that was a long time ago. Anger was for the youth, and I was mostly just tired now. So tired of burying people. I wanted to shake the little girl and warn her that the loss was never ending, and that no matter how hard you tried to prevent it, cherry blossoms would always fall. Before I could crush the little girl's naivety, a voice called out, "There you are!" I swiveled around in the direction of the baritone voice, and I saw a head over the crowd before I saw the rest of him. He was that tall. Once people saw him coming this way, they parted for him, not because they were intimidated by the broad shoulders and muscled physique that the formless robes did little to hide, but out of respect for the order he belonged to. The chain medallions, the calligraphy staff, and the white silk do-rags that flowed to his ankles clearly identified him as belonging to the sacred order of the brother monks. They often did charity work in this area and were held to a high regard among the villagers. I didn't recognize this one, though, and I've been visiting Chikagure for some time now. He must be new in the village, but not new to the order judging by the number of chains around his neck. I've worked with enough brothers to know that every chain marked a year of service, with medallions signifying a particular distinguished year. And this guy had 15 chains and 5 medallions, higher than the head monk currently stationed in the village. I immediately wondered if something was going on, and nope, none of my business. They could be organizing a cipher to practice their haikus for all I care. Your mother's looking for you, young lady, the monk said, He grabbed the girl by the shoulder, as if knowing at any moment she could be spirited away. She reported you missing at the temple. This is the second time this week, but... No buts, the monk reprimanded. Your mom cares for you too much to be worrying her. You feel me? The girl searched the crowd, probably for one of those friends of hers that she was playing with, but seeing as they were long gone, her shoulders drooped in surrender. Fine. The monk nodded in approval. He then looked at me and was not at all moonstruck as the little girl had been. When we surprised to learn that the villagers had been gossiping about me to the newcomers, he gave me an acknowledged nod up. Sister? Brother? I acknowledged to him, nodding up in turn. The brother monks and Sistah Samurai often disagreed regarding different methodologies and approaches to dealing with the demons. The brothers were often too busy trying to figure out where the demons came from to actually deal with the demons clawing at their faces, but in the end, we were in this fight together, and I held no grudges against them, except for the fact that most of them were still alive today. And curiously congregating in this village, we stood staring at each other awkwardly. What was he waiting for? You're new, I said, folding my arms and submitting to my damned curiosity. A refugee, just like everyone else. Straight lying out of his neck. I bet you should call him out on it, which led to another uncomfortable silence. Even the little girl who had been looking between us with some confusion blurted out, Just ask her out already. He stepped closer to me as if to whisper something, but that was quite close enough. I didn't like anyone past my Wakazashi range that I didn't invite in. I drew back, reestablishing that comfort range of distance, and he looked at me with further confusion. Didn't know why he was acting so confused. You never step into a swordswoman's space without cause. You got it? He asked, a tinge of desperation in his voice now. Why haven't you gone to the temple with it? Have what? All I know is that you step to me like that again, I'm going to strangle you with your damn chains. I said, tired of this all. I don't know what you're talking about. You got the wrong person. Where you think I am, I'm not her. How many other Sistah Samurais you know out here with an afro? Something in my words must have clicked, for his eyes widened. Now you're right, I mistook you for somebody else. My deepest apologies, sister. If you would allow me to treat you to lunch, I could clear up any confusion. Know what I mean? Ha! It is a date, the little girl said triumphantly. Honestly, I didn't know if this dude was sincere, or if this was the weirdest pick-up line ever. Either way, I didn't have time for this. Don't bother me again. I threatened, before walking away into a dispersed crowd now that the geishas had passed away. I had more important things to do than to figure out the monks and their cryptic BS. But still, what in the actual hell? And with that, viewers and listeners, we will stop there. Now, as I said, Sistah Samurai is truly an anime in novella form. It reads just like an anime. It has all the tropes, all of the, not cliches, but the familiarities of an anime. And definitely, Afro Samurai was a huge inspiration for Sistah Samurai. It reads very well. It's a great story. And at the very end, there is a very touching tribute. So I urge you all to go check it out and give this a read. And also check out Tatiana's other books as well. I will link the interview right here for you to check out, as well as her social media and where to buy the rest of her books. Give this book a read because you will not be disappointed. And as for my overall review, this easily is a 5 out of 5 for me. This is a really good book. It's very unique in the sense that, as I mentioned before, it is an anime in novella form. It has all the feels. It goes through the beats. I greatly enjoy this story, and I know a lot of you will too. And this is the perfect season to look for a new book because it is the holiday time. So make sure to check it out and leave a review because reviews help readers. And speaking of holiday sales, I am doing a 50% off on all 3 of my books. I have linked the code in my last interview video, and I'll probably post it down here for you to check it out. It's available and will run through all the way until the end of December at the start of the new year. So thank you all very much for joining me for another Wandering Quill Book Impressions episode, and I will see you all in the next episode very soon.